In this video, I'm going to show you how to get clean masks from a simple window all the way up to layering advanced qualifiers and AI tools so that you can get the best results. If you don't know who I am, my name is Graham Hunt and I am a professional freelance colorist based in Cape Town, South Africa, working on mostly commercials and documentaries. Before we go into the first method, I just want to say that masks are a luxury and should be used accordingly. You should be trying to get the results you're looking for just with your primaries initially. And if you really can't get it and you need that isolation, then you start going into masks. So with that said, let's jump into the first method, which is using window masks. So our first method is going to be using a circular window mask, which can be found right here. When you click that, you'll see that there's 3 circles, a square and a line in the middle. The square on the outside and its control points allows you to uniformly resize the mask. The 2 outer circles represent the softness or the feathering of the mask, and the green circle represents the actual shape of the mask. So why would I use a circular mask instead of any of the other masks? The reason for that is because it's round, which feels more organic to most of the objects that we are trying to mask in a grade, and it can be a lot more subtle than sharp corners. If your mask isn't colored like mine, don't worry about it. This is just an overlay effect that I have enabled. So I'm going to show you 2 quick examples of how I like to use this in my everyday grade, and then we'll move on to the next method. I just want to say that this is probably the mask that I use the most. It's a broader mask, which is safer because when you make an adjustment using it, it's not really going to break your image apart, especially if you add some softness. So let me show you how I would use this. We're going to mask this subject's face, and we're just going to brighten up slightly and help focus the viewer's eye to her face. You can hit Shift H to really see what's going on. Make sure that there's some good softness, and that looks pretty good to me. Now I'm just going to make some adjustments on my color panel. I'm just going to increase the gamma, and then I'm going to increase the contrast in her face, slightly bring down the gain. Something like that looks pretty good. Now what you want to do is go and track your mask. Once the tracking is done, just scrub through the clip to make sure that there is no drift and that your mask stays where you want it to stay. So this is before and this is after, and this is before and after towards the end there. So you can see that we are getting a little bit of a halo. That's okay, that just means that we need to adjust our mask slightly before and after, and that's looking a lot better. And that's pretty much how you'd use this mask. It's really simple, and that's the beauty of it. Just make sure that you're looking for those kind of details, halos and whatnot. I'm going to go into the next example here, but before I do, I want to show you how I would take this kind of thinking a little bit further here. We're trying to draw the viewer's eye to the subject. How do we do that even more? What I would do is add a parallel node here and then copy this exact mask onto that bottom node, invert it, reset our primary wheels or any adjustments that we've made, and make the mask a lot bigger and a lot softer. And then I'm actually going to bring down the gain or your highlights, whatever you choose to do, and make it very soft. So that's before and that's after, before and after. And it really does just help draw the eye to your subjects. So this is without any of the mask, before and after, and already you can see that it really does draw your eye to her face. The next example is using this to brighten up a sky. So you just want to position your mask over the sky, rotate it, make it nice and big, and then soften it quite a bit. This is where you want to be quite careful. You don't want to go too overboard because obviously the softness here is going to affect anything underneath that horizon line. So if I go Shift H, we can really get a better view of what's being impacted. That looks pretty good to me. This is before and this is after, before and after. Again, very simple adjustments, but these are the types of adjustments that when layered together really helps shape an image and doesn't pull your image apart. And that's the beauty of these masks. The next method is still here in our window masks, except this time it's a custom drawn window mask. So you're going to click on the pen, and now you're able to draw your own shape around an object that you want to mask. For this example, I want to show you how I would use a mask to be able to increase the contrast ratio on a subject's face. So what you want is still some rounded edges and rounded corners and lots of softness. So to do this, you're going to click and drop a control point. But the next time you click, you're going to click and drag, and that's going to give you these splines so that you can round those edges. Spend some time finessing the shape of the mask so that it feels really good when you use it, and then come in and add some softness to the inside, add some softness to the outside. An extra tip to take this mask and this kind of use case a little bit further is to mimic the wrapping of light on a subject's face. So in this case, the light is coming from this direction over here, and so the shadow fall off is on this side. And so I'm actually going to pull the softness of our mask towards where that light is coming from to try and mimic the fall off of the shadows. So that now when I bring down the adjustment, you can see that the shadows fall off towards the light, meaning that it goes from brighter to darker, but more gradually. And then of course you want to go and track that through as well, and then make sure that there's no drift before and after. And although that's quite a strong adjustment we've made, because it's shaped to our subject's face, it feels quite natural and feels really good, especially because of that softness. Now we're moving on to some of the more finicky and more complicated types of mask, namely the qualifier. This is one of the most sketchy, but also one of the most useful masks. You just have to know how to use it, and often layering it with other masks gets you the best results. So let's talk through how to use a qualifier. So open up your qualifier toolkit, and if you hover over your image, you'll see that you have an eyedropper. Most people will just go ahead and click where they want to isolate and then hit Shift H to enable highlight mode, and then sort of just finesse from there. And that can sometimes be a really good starting point when you are working in an image like this that has pretty much two tones in it. So it's got blue and skin tones dominate most of the image. The problem is in an image that is a little bit more complicated like this one, if you go and do the same thing, you will see that there's a lot in this image that sits within that same hue range. And if you just went in and started to try and refine it from here, you would sit here for a while to get it there. And I just don't like the guesswork. So you can always do that eyedropper to help you get a good head start, but this is the way that I would suggest moving on from there. Turn off hue, turn off saturation, and try and isolate the luminance region first. So in our luminance, we can adjust our low range and our high range and try and get a really narrow isolation here. So now we've got a good starting point. So turn on hue, and initially it's going to be quite wide, the range, and so you want to bring down the width somewhere around there, soften it, and then move the center around until you feel like it's in a good position. Somewhere around there is a good starting point for this. If I play this back, however, you will see all of this jitter and noise, and that is quite a problem for us. This is why this is more of a complicated method. There's a lot going on and you need to understand it, but also you need to be quite patient and try to get the best results by playing with your matte finesse. So this is where we can come in and denoise. Basically, we want to get rid of that jitter and soften the edges of that mask. So I pulled it up quite a bit. Now when I play it back, you can see that jitter is still there, but they aren't as granular as it was here. So I'm going to pull that denoise up again. We're going to blur the radius quite a lot, and then play around with your clean white, clean black, clean white, and basically you dance between clean black and clean white to try and make sure that your mask isn't causing any halos, because if we didn't clean black and we just cleaned whites, you would see here on the edges of our mask, it's soft, but we're starting to include some of the tones on the outside of that mask, and that's not what we want to do. So you want to back off your clean white and then bring in some clean black, because that is going to back off the mask. So somewhere around there is pretty good. If I play that back, you can still see quite a bit of jitter, especially up here. So now I'm going to add some post filter, some pre-filter, and that seems to help quite a bit. But the problem is we still have some of this jacket. Some of the jacket is included in our mask because it's similar tones to the actual skin tone. So this is where we can layer masks to help us get a better result. And so I would come in, add a circular window mask, add some softness, and you can be quite broad here. It doesn't have to be so specific as we were before. Now you'll see that his coat or his jacket is not included in the mask. If you aren't able to get a very precise key, maybe this isn't the best method for you for what you're trying to do. For instance here, we aren't able to get it super clean up here in the hair, or you just need to make sure that your adjustment isn't too dramatic. So if I pull down on the saturation here and then played it back, you can see a little bit of jitter up here, but nothing crazy because it's not that much of an adjustment. I've made a video about Magic Mask in the past, so go check that out if you're unsure how to use it. It is only for DaVinci Resolve Studio, not in the free version, just so you're aware. But in this example where we're trying to isolate the skin tones of these two individuals, it's going to be a lot easier if we can isolate them completely, and AI Magic Mask is great for that. I'm just going to add some control points on them and then just make sure they are included completely and then track that through. Magic Mask is not perfect, so come through and check for any drops in the mask. Now we can see that only our subjects are isolated in the image, meaning that we don't have to worry about all the other tones within the image. we can go back and do our qualifier again. So we can be a lot broader with our selection here, but we still need to be as careful with our matte finesse. For the sake of time in this video, I'm not going to spend hours adjusting the matte finesse, but you get the idea. Clean the white, back it off, clean the black, back it off, and play around with everything until you get as clean a mask as possible. Layer different methods so that you can get as clean of an isolation as possible. And if a clean magic mask is failing you, you might need to jump into Fusion to get a clean magic mask rotoscope, because you can play with edge and all of that kind of stuff to soften it quite a bit and then bring it back into here. But that's really if you want to go super advanced. For now, for the adjustment that I'm going to make here, this is more than enough. And I'm just going to use a hue versus hue adjustment and adjust their skin tone. And I'm just making it quite an aggressive adjustment so that you can see how well we have isolated those skin tones. So layering those techniques really helped us to get a clean mask, and playing around with our luminance first before getting too much into our hue helps us just make sure that we're isolating regions. That's kind of what you want to do. Help DaVinci Resolve by isolating the regions that you're looking for and then go into something like hue or saturation. Like I said in the beginning of this video, masks are a luxury. They're super powerful, and so you actually need to handle them with care because they do have downsides to them, like introducing artifacts and pulling your footage apart. So please make sure that you are using the methods I've taught you so that you can get clean masks. If you have struggled with a particular type of mask before, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you have struggled with in the past. Otherwise, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like and the subscribe button if you want to see more, and there's a lot more coming in the future.